Football Appreciation YouTube channel. Now, I've done my goalkeeper tier list. I've done my right back tier list. Now I'm going to do my left back tier list. Now, I think left back is probably the weakest area in the Prem. Like I was doing some research before this, and honestly, I was struggling to see who I'd even put in these top two categories. So I've got Team of the Season nominee, so I'm only going to put 2 players in there. I've got good, so you had an above average season. I've got decent, which is just, you had a solid season. Below average, it's just not terrible, but it's just kind of meh, and then poor. Now, in this tier list, there's like 40 players here, but I'm only going to do 1 from each club. So I'm going to do from Bernardo to Kieran Tierney. Now, I just want to point out Bernardo doesn't play for Brighton. Solly March does. So I'm going to pretend that Bernardo is Solly March, just to point that out. And if there's anyone over here that you're interested in my opinion on, so like maybe Alex Telles or Ben Mendy, just comment and I'll reply to you. But yeah, let's start with, let me get Ryan Aït-Nouri out of the way. I've done a video on my channel about Ryan Aït-Nouri, so if you're interested, just watch it. But he's a really good young fullback. He hasn't played enough to be in one of these, but really good young fullback. Same with Tarek Mitchell. Going to put him in decent. He's got very similar aspects to Wan-Bissaka when he was a young player at Crystal Palace. Really good defensive numbers, but terrible on the ball and doesn't really offer anything going forward. But for a 21-year-old, first regular season in the Prem, really good young defender. Got nothing bad to say about him, personally. Let's go with Zinchenko. Now, if Zinchenko played the whole season, he'd be up here. But he's played 1,400 minutes, which isn't terrible, but it's not great. He's a really good carrier of the ball. He's an amazing passer. He contributes going forward. He's a really intelligent player. And for me, Man City look better whenever he plays. But he hasn't played enough, so I'm going to put him in good. Let's go Connor Townsend. Not even going to waste my time talking about him. He's not a good footballer. Like Doronki puts up some defensive numbers because he plays for West Brom, and he's got surprisingly good passing or progressive passing, but his numbers are terrible. And I thought Connor Townsend was like 20, 21. He's 28. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put him in poor. Maybe it will sound harsh, but it is what it is. Same with Ender Stevens. Ender Stevens had a really good season last year, but he hasn't got a goal or assist. XG should say he has 1 each, but he doesn't. It's not like his defensive numbers have gone up either. Like, let's say his defensive numbers have gone really high, but his attacking numbers have dropped off. You could understand. And I get that he's played centre back this season a bit, but he's just not been good enough. Just like George Baldock on the other side. So I'm going to put him in poor. Same with Jamal Lewis. You know, Jamal Lewis was one of those players at Norwich where he kind of got a move, even though he was never as good as Max Aarons in the Championship or the Prem, yet he got the move. And his numbers, again, they're not very good. He's not contributing anything going forward. He's not good on the ball. He's not a good dribbler. He works hard. He's got good pressures, and he's still young. He's only 23, and he's still adapting to the Prem. But I don't think he's a very great footballer. I think he's kind of probably a top-end Championship player, and I think Newcastle could probably do a bit better. Ryan Bertrand, again, I really like Ryan Bertrand. I think he's been one of the best left-backs over the past 5-6 years consistently, but he's been terrible this season. He's out of contract. Apparently Leicester want him, which really surprises me, but his numbers are awful. Like, I don't have to talk you through these. They're all terrible. And he's played a good amount of minutes. So, sorry, Ryan, but you're going in poor. Luke Thomas, kind of similar to Tarek Mitchell and Ryan Aït-Nouri. Very good young fullback. But I can't really put him high up because he's hardly played. I think he's played about 800 minutes, so I'm going to have to put him in decent, but he looks like a very promising young player. Anthony Robertson, I'm going to put him in good, you know. I think Anthony Robertson's a really good young fullback, and the fact that Fulham only spent 2 million on him, and the fact they have, Joe Bryan, who's a proven Championship left back at Fulham and Bristol. I feel like Fulham would be happy to sell Anthony Robertson for probably like 10, 12 mil. He's not an incredible attacking fullback, but defensively his numbers are amazing. He's really good in the air. He's a good carrier of the ball. He can dribble out from the back. He's what a lot of clubs need. He's probably what his former club Everton need. I think he'd be a good player for maybe Wolves or Leeds. Maybe good competition for Matt Targett at Villa. He's just a really good young fullback, and I think he'll get a move. Let's go with... Okay, this is Bernardo, but I'm going to pretend it's Solly March. Like I said earlier, Solly March had an amazing season. He's the most underrated player in the Premier League for me, Solly March. I know he's a winger by trade, but he's a really good attacking left wing back. He's a really good carrier of the ball. He's put up decent attacking numbers. I know Dan Burns played there as well, but I feel like they look so much better with Solly March. And by the fact that he's poor in the air and probably could add a few more goals and assists, I think he's had a really good season at left back. And if you look at expected goals against, Brighton have the third best defence in the league. And I know that's not all down to Solly March, but I think it's indicative of that Brighton back five. So I'm going to put Solly March in good. Not Bernardo, Solly March. Stuart Dallas, again, I don't get why Stuart Dallas is the left back in this tier list, because he just doesn't really play. He's played 10 games there. Again, I'm going to put him in decent. Like I said in my right back video, if it was for centre mid, he'd be up here, but he's not. It's for left back, so I'm going to put him there. It's harsh, but I know. Charlie Taylor, again, I think he's below average, but it's not really his fault. He's just playing in a poor Burnley side, but his numbers aren't very good. Just like Matt Loughton. I think he's better than Matt Loughton, but I just think he's a very average footballer, to be honest. But he's not poor. He's clearly a Premier League level left back, but he's not a high-end Premier League left back. Similarly to Matt Targett. I think Matt Targett's better. I think it's worrying that he's played basically every game and not contributed a goal, or only got one assist. But he carries the ball well. He's not an incredible passer. It's something he probably should work on. But he's similar. His numbers are very similar to Matty Cash. But he's been in the Premier League for a bit longer, and he's not as good defensively. So I'm going to have to be a bit harsh on him than I am Matty Targett. So I'm going to put... this feels really harsh. He's top of below average. Bottom decent. But I'm going to leave him below average for now. But I like Matty Targett. But based on the numbers, I kind of have to put him there. Okay. I'm going to annoy the whole of Arsenal's fan base. But I think Kieran Tierney's had a below average season. I know people are going to roast me for this. I know it's not his fault. I know he's kind of moved a lot from centre back and left back. He's playing in a poor Arsenal side and he's had injuries. I get it. But he's played a good amount of football. And his defensive numbers are really bad. Centre back or full back. He's not an incredible... Actually, okay, I take this back. I'll put him in decent. He's had an alright season. But I think most Arsenal fans would say he's one of the best left backs in the league. And his stats just suggest he's a very average left back. And I think there's a lot of things that come into that, and I think he is a good fullback. But based on this season, he's had a below average season. Like a lot of Arsenal players, by the way. It's not just him. But he's had a really below average season. So you kind of have to penalise him for that. But I think he has the potential to be up here. But based on this season, he's just had a poor year for me. Aaron Cresswell is a hard one because he plays a lot of centre back and at left back. And his numbers are genuinely atrocious, but his defensive numbers are literally woeful. He's in the bottom 2% for tackles out of fullbacks. Yeah, he's got a good amount of assists, and I feel like he's just one of those players that doesn't make sense statistically. So I'm going to override my logic and put him in decent, but the numbers don't back it. But it's really weird. I don't get why Aaron Cresswell's numbers look so terrible, because whenever I watch him, he's good. But I'm going to put him in decent. Although, based on numbers, he should be here. Let's go Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw's obviously been the best left back in the Premier League this season. I'm surprised he doesn't have more than a goal, personally. But he's brilliant on the ball, and he's a really good dribbler. I don't think he's been as good as people say he has been. I think people have overrated Luke Shaw a little bit, personally. But I still think he's been by far the best left back in the Premier League. So, yeah, Luke Shaw top. Now, let's go with Andy Robertson. Now, I kind of touched on this in my right back video, but I'm surprised Andy Robertson hasn't got more abuse this season, kind of like the way Trent has. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold's got so much criticism this season because his defensive numbers are terrible, yet so are Andy Robertson's. Yet I never hear anyone say Andy Robertson's a terrible defender, because he's not. Like, it's a system thing, right? But Trent doesn't get given that same luxury. But look, he's a really good dribbler. He's a good progressive passer. He's a really good crosser of the ball. I'm not saying Andy Robertson's a bad player. I think he's been a bit down on last season, so I'm going to put him in good, the same way I did with Trent. But I'm surprised he hasn't got more criticism. But he's such an ever-present. He's basically played every game. And I'm surprised, where is he? Simicast hasn't played more, to be honest. But yeah, I think Andy Robertson had a good season. Let's go Reguilon. Reguilon's let me down a little bit. I thought Reguilon was going to be the best left back in the Prem this season, and look, he's played under Mourinho in a very bad Tottenham side. His numbers are he's gone just a 7 out of 10 in everything, but I kind of expected more. I did a video on Tottenham and how if they sell Harry Kane, how they can improve, and I think Reguilon would be better in a back three. Same with Matt Doherty, and I kind of want to put him bottom of decent. But I think the stats say here, but I expected more from him, so he should probably be in decent. But based on the numbers, I'm going to put him in good. But I feel like there's more to come from him. But I feel like he's been hampered by system and by Jose Mourinho. But I think if Tottenham switch to a back three, I mean, I explained this in that other video, but if they switch to a back three, I think he'll be absolutely fine and become one of the Prem's best left backs. Now, got 2 more. Let's do Ben Chilwell. I think Ben Chilwell's been amazing this season. I don't think he's been given the credit he deserves. He's got more goals and assists than Luke Shaw, albeit by 1. And his numbers are so well-rounded. I think statistically he's probably actually been better than Luke Shaw, but it should be acknowledged he's playing in a back three. And he hasn't played the same amount of minutes. And he has overperformed his assists a bit. He should have 2 according to expected assists. However, he's been amazing. He's been a really good dribbler, good passer, good solid defender for someone playing in a back three. These numbers are pretty good, and I just think Ben Chilwell's been he's just been what they bought, a solid if not spectacular player. And yeah, for 50 million, I think he's been a decent signing. You know, Chelsea's goals against, you know, they've been the second best defence in the Premier League this season, and Ben Chilwell's been a big part of that. He's so much better than this guy, Marcus Alonso, and this guy, Emerson. I think he's been the second best left back in the Prem. I think you can actually make a very good argument to put him there based on numbers, but purely for Luke Shaw's story, I'll put him second. But Ben Chilwell's not far off. I'm kind of tempted to put Ben Chilwell top, you know. Low-key. Let me know in the comments. I'm going to leave Luke Shaw top for now, but I think Chilwell's close. Let's go with Luka Dunye. Dinier's kind of just been what he's always been. A really solid defender, a really good crosser, and the guy that contributes assists. Not goals, but assists. He's a really good set-piece taker. He's Everton's most reliable defender. I kind of want his passing to improve a little bit, although he does play a lot of long balls. He's Everton's most experienced kind of just Premier League players. Like, he's just, in terms of consistency, he's always a 7 out of 10. He's a really good player, Luka Dunye. So I'm going to put him top of good. I wouldn't mind him being up here, but I think Ben Chilwell and Luke Shaw have better seasons. So I think that's everyone. Yeah. So let me know what you think. Comment in it below. I'm sure someone's going to disagree with Kieran Tierney and a few of these other ones. But subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have a centre-back tier list. I'm going to have a winger tier list, a central midfielder tier list, and a striker tier list. There'll be more videos coming out as well about England and the England squad. I'm going to be reviewing every Premier League club season as well. There'll be so many more videos coming out. So subscribe, check out my right back and tier list, my right back and goalkeeper tier list. And yeah, peace.